Recognizing the rare aura, some people move through the world as if they are barely noticed, blending into the background, their presence soft and unremarkable. Others seem to draw attention for reasons even they can't quite explain. Into a room, and the air changes. Eyes glance toward them, not necessarily out of attraction in the traditional sense, but out of curiosity, as if there's a faint hum of something unusual. If you carry what I call a rare aura, you know exactly what this feels like. It's not about physical beauty, social power, or loud charisma. In fact, some with a rare aura are soft-spoken, even shy. Their rarity has little to do with what's obvious on the surface. It's about a quality of presence, something in the way you exist in the world that is subtly different, deeply human, and almost impossible to counterfeit. 1. The early signs, the first time you notice it, might be in childhood. Perhaps you were the one teachers confided in, or the child who sat quietly in the corner but seemed to be watching everything. Other children might have called you weird, not always cruelly, but with that mix of fascination and discomfort that comes from encountering someone who doesn't quite fit the expected mold. You might remember moments when adults treated you less like a child and more like a peer, not because you knew all the answers, but because you listened differently. You paid attention in a way that made people feel seen. You asked questions that weren't typical for your age. Questions about meaning, about why people were sad, about why certain things felt unfair. Carl Jung would say that such early experiences are signs of a psyche attuned to individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your unique self, distinct from collective expectations. From a young age, the rare aura's path diverges from the collective script. The confessional effect, one of the strangest signs of a rare aura, is that people tend to reveal things to you, often deeply personal things, without knowing why. You might be sitting next to a stranger on a bus, and within minutes they are telling you about their divorce, or the child they lost, or the dream they've never told anyone else. This is not because you have some magical power to pull confessions from people. Rather, your presence somehow signals safety. You don't rush to judge, you don't interrupt with your own story, and you hold what they say with a kind of quiet respect. Psychologists might call this high empathic receptivity, but Jung would add that there's something archetypal about it. You might unconsciously play the role of the wounded healer, someone who has been touched by life deeply enough to meet others in their own depth. The confessional effect can feel flattering at first, but over time it can be exhausting. You may leave a conversation carrying the weight of someone else's pain, unsure where to put it. This is one of the first challenges of having a rare aura, learning to be present for others without becoming a dumping ground for unresolved sorrow. The double-edged reaction here is the paradox. The same qualities that make some people feel safe with you can make others deeply uncomfortable. Because a rare aura often sees beneath the surface, some people feel exposed in your presence, even if you've said nothing and made no judgment. It is as though your mere way of looking at them bypasses their carefully built defenses. For a person who lives primarily through their social mask, this can feel threatening. They may avoid you, criticize you, or try to diminish you without clear cause. This is why some rare aura individuals report a strange pattern. They are either deeply liked or strangely disliked, with few neutral reactions. Philosophically, this makes sense. Human beings tend to respond strongly to anything that disturbs their equilibrium. If your presence reflects something unacknowledged in another person, their buried desires, their unhealed wounds, their hidden contradictions, they will either feel drawn toward you in search of that truth or recoil to avoid it. Loneliness. In a crowded room, if you have a rare aura, you have probably known the feeling of being alone in a crowd. Not because you lack friends, but because few truly get you. You can laugh at the right jokes, join in the conversation, and even be socially skilled, but beneath it, there is a sense of being elsewhere, of not belonging entirely. Jung often spoke of individuation as a path that leads away from the comfort of the herd. The more you grow into your own nature, the more you will feel the gap between yourself and the collective. This is not a flaw to fix. Cost of authenticity. But the loneliness is real. There are nights when you wonder if you are destined to always be on the edges of things. And yet, that very distance allows you to see patterns others can't. You notice the small human dramas playing out in subtle gestures. You see who is quietly hurting, who is pretending, who is radiating genuine joy. It is a strange exchange. In losing easy belonging, you gain sharper sight, heightened sensitivity. One of the hallmarks of a rare aura is heightened sensitivity, not just emotional, but sensory and energetic. Loud environments may overwhelm you, linger in your mind long after others have forgotten them. A single offhand comment from someone you care about can weigh on you for days. To the uninitiated, sensitivity is often mistaken for weakness, but in Jung's view, sensitivity is simply the nervous system's way of signaling a deep attunement to life. It's the price of perceiving more. This sensitivity allows you to notice what others miss. The moment someone's tone shifts, the energy in a room changes, or a person's eyes betray a truth their words deny. Your words and presence, their weight. When you speak, people sense that you have felt your way into what you're saying. Intuitive knowing. If you have a rare aura, you have likely experienced moments of just knowing. You meet someone and instantly sense they are going through something, though they haven't said a word. You walk into a place and feel an atmosphere of tension or peace without any obvious clues. Jung called this intuition, a function of the psyche that perceives patterns and possibilities beyond the reach of conscious logic. For the rare aura, intuition is not a mystical superpower. It's simply another way of processing reality. This intuitive knowing can be unsettling. At times, you might doubt yourself, wondering if you're imagining things. But when experience repeatedly confirms your perceptions, you begin to trust this inner compass. It becomes part of your quiet strength. Why it matters to recognize this. In yourself, many people with a rare aura spend years trying to be like everyone else, diluting their uniqueness to fit in. They hide their depth, silence their intuitions, and pretend to enjoy the same distractions that others seem to love. But denying a rare aura comes at a cost. You begin to feel numb, disconnected from yourself. Your relationships feel hollow. Your work loses meaning. Recognizing your rare aura is not about feeling superior. In fact, arrogance is a sign you have misunderstood it entirely. The point is to live in alignment with your nature rather than against it. To accept that your life will have different rhythms, different needs, and different callings than most. The philosophical frame From a philosophical perspective, the rare aura challenges society's standard measures of success. The modern world often rewards visibility, speed, and productivity. The rare aura moves according to depth, meaning, and authenticity, qualities that don't always yield immediate social rewards. In this sense, you could say that having a rare aura is both an existential gift and a moral responsibility. You are tasked with living truthfully, even when it would be easier to conform. You are called to see and speak what is real, even when it is inconvenient. The invitation of Section 1, this first stage, is simply about recognition, about understanding that if you have always felt a little apart, if your presence affects people in inexplicable ways, if you carry both the beauty and burden of seeing deeply, you are not broken, you are not a mistake, you are carrying a different frequency of being. But recognition is only the beginning. In the sections to come, we will explore the inner architecture of this rare aura, the dream life, the symbolic patterns, the emotional and intuitive intelligence that shape your experience. Then, we will confront the deepest challenge: how to live authentically in a world that often misunderstands you. For now, hold this truth gently. Your difference is not an accident. It is the shape of your soul. Underscore, if you'd like, the inner architecture of a rare aura. Alright, here's Section 2. At full depth and scale, approximately equals 3,000 words. It will build on the groundwork from Section 1 and move us into the inner life of someone with a rare aura. The inner architecture of a rare aura. If the first sign of a rare aura is how the outside world responds to you, the second, and perhaps more profound, sign lies entirely within. To live with this kind of presence is to inhabit an inner world that feels richer, deeper, and often more complex than what the outer world reflects back to you. Where others may have simple rooms in the house of their mind, you walk through a cathedral layered with shadowed alcoves, stained glass windows, and echoing chambers where old voices and new ideas meet. Carl Jung would have called this the psyche's inner architecture, the structure of thought, feeling, and unconscious patterning that quietly governs how you experience life. It's not something you can fully explain to others. The minute you try, words fail. Yet you know, by direct experience, that your inner life is a realm with its own weather, its own seasons, its own language. Underscore dreams as a private language. One of the clearest signs of this deeper architecture is the quality of your dreams. For many, dreams are half-forgotten fragments, meaningless flashes of nonsense. For you, they are often vivid, cinematic, and emotionally charged, leaving you with a residue of feeling that can last the whole day. You may dream of symbolic landscapes, endless staircases, locked rooms, vast oceans, or old forests that seem to know your name. These are not random. Jung's great insight was that dreams speak the language of symbols, not logic. They are the psyche's attempt to balance and guide you toward greater wholeness. Sometimes a dream will show you a fear you've buried. Other times, it offers a solution before your waking mind has even recognized the problem. For example, you may be debating whether to leave a job that feels soul-draining. You have a dream in which you're trying to carry water in a cracked jar, only to watch it drain out with every step. When you wake, the meaning is not complicated. Your energy is being wasted. The dream gave you an image so undeniable that it bypasses all your rationalizations. To live with a rare aura is to treat dreams as more than background noise. They are your night school, and the more you attend, the more fluent you become in the symbolic tongue of your own unconscious. Synchronicity and the feeling of being guided. Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe those meaningful coincidences that feel like reality is in dialogue with you. Most people brush such events aside as random chance. For you, they carry a weight that is hard to ignore. It's not just that you think of someone and they call a moment later. It's that these events often arrive with emotional charge, as if to underline the fact that you are in the right place, or that something in your life is ready to shift. For someone with a rare aura, synchronicities tend to happen in clusters. A song lyric answering a question you've been asking silently. A stranger repeating the exact phrase you wrote in your journal that morning. A book falling from a shelf at your feet that contains the very passage you needed. Skeptics will tell you this is nothing more than pattern recognition run wild. But Jung and anyone who has lived with such patterns long enough knows it's more than that. These are not the superstitions of a desperate mind. They are moments when the unconscious and the outer world align, giving you a flash of meaning that cannot be reduced to probability. The key is not to chase them obsessively, but to receive them as you might receive a letter from an old friend, with gratitude, curiosity, and a willingness to see what they stir in you. Emotional intelligence, as both gift and burden. Having a rare aura almost always means you are highly attuned to the emotional states of others. You can feel a change in someone's mood before they've said a word. You can walk into a room and sense the invisible tension hanging in the air. This emotional sensitivity can make you a gifted listener, a natural confidant, and a source of comfort to those around you. People may say, "You just get me," without realizing that what you are doing is quietly mapping the emotional currents they themselves are unaware of. But here lies the double edge of the blade. To be this attuned is to carry a constant influx of emotional information, some of it overwhelming, some of it not even yours. Without boundaries, you risk emotional exhaustion, compassion fatigue, or a quiet resentment that creeps in when your own needs go unmet. Philosophically, it's a reminder that virtue, left unbalanced, becomes a vice. Even empathy must be tempered with discernment. Jung would advise that you periodically withdraw your projections, that is, recognize what belongs to you and what belongs to others, so that you don't drown in the very waters you are skilled at navigating. The just knowing of intuition, one of the most mysterious aspects of the rare aura, is a form of knowing that bypasses step-by-step reasoning. You simply know, and often you are right. This is not fortune-telling. It is the unconscious mind synthesizing patterns, too complex for the conscious mind to track in real time. You pick up subtle cues, a hesitation in someone's voice, an inconsistency in their story, a barely perceptible shift in atmosphere. All of these are woven into a holistic sense that points you toward truth without a spreadsheet of evidence. For others, your certainty may seem irrational or even arrogant, but in your own life, you've seen too many examples of this quiet knowing proving accurate to dismiss it. The challenge is learning when to trust it and when to test it, unchecked. Intuition can slip into paranoia. Denied, It can leave you stranded in situations your deeper self warned you about long ago. Jung described intuition as one of the four primary functions of consciousness, alongside thinking, feeling, and sensing. For those with a rare aura, it often leads. That is both a blessing and a responsibility, because intuitive insight demands the courage to act on what cannot yet be proved, archetypes and the mythic layer of self. Jung's work on archetypes, universal patterns of human experience, offers perhaps the most profound key to understanding the rare aura's inner world. You may find yourself drawn to certain myths, characters, or historical figures without knowing why. Perhaps the wanderer's path resonates with you, or the healers, or the rebels. These are not just preferences. They are psychic blueprints that shape how you interpret and live your life. For example, the archetype of the seeker might explain your restless hunger for new experiences, while the sage might explain your compulsion to gather wisdom and share it. The wounded healer might illuminate why your own pain has led you to help others in similar situations. Recognizing these archetypal influences doesn't put you in a box. It gives you a language for the forces already at work in your psyche. It allows you to step into them more consciously, rather than being unconsciously driven by them. Relationships. As mirrors, because your inner life is so rich, relationships often act as mirrors, sometimes clear, sometimes distorted, reflecting parts of yourself that you might otherwise miss. A friend's courage might awaken your own dormant bravery. A partner's selfishness might reveal your tendency to overgive. An enemy's cruelty might shine light on your capacity for shadow. The parts of yourself you'd rather not acknowledge, but must, if you want to be whole. Jung believed that much of what irritates us in others is a projection of our own disowned traits. For the rare aura, this can be an accelerated course in self-knowledge, because your connections tend to be intense, even if brief. People don't often remain neutral toward you. They either lean in or recoil, and both reactions have something to teach you. The garden you keep hidden at the center of all this, the dreams, the symbols, the emotional depth, lies something you rarely show anyone, your private garden. It might be a literal space, like a corner of your home, filled with books, plants, and light, where you go to replenish. Or it might be entirely inward, a set of rituals, daydreams, and secret hopes that nourish you when the world feels too loud. This garden is not for public display, not because it is shameful, but because it is sacred. In Jungian terms, it is the place where the self, the central, organizing principle of the psyche, comes into direct contact with consciousness. Every rare aura must guard this place fiercely. Without it, you are at risk of being consumed by the demands and energies of others. With it, you have a wellspring that can sustain you through long seasons of drought. Living with a rare aura means inhabiting a layered, symbolic, emotionally rich reality. It is not always easy. The very qualities that make your inner life so luminous can also make the outer world feel barren by comparison. But to deny this architecture is to deny yourself, and to embrace it fully, consciously, is to walk a path that, while narrow, leads to a kind of authenticity most will never taste. The magnetic and the threatening. A person with a rare aura often notices a peculiar pattern in their life. People are drawn to them instinctively, yet some of those very same people recoil later with suspicion, discomfort, or even hostility. It is a paradox that can leave you wondering, what did I do wrong? In truth, you did nothing except be yourself. Your presence, like a strong light in a dim room, illuminates more than others are sometimes ready to see. Jung observed that when we encounter someone whose depth touches the places we have not explored within ourselves, we experience both fascination and unease. This is because their very being awakens something in us, sometimes a longing, sometimes a fear. A rare aura holds up a mirror. People look into it and see not only your essence, but their own shadows, insecurities, and unfulfilled potential. The unconscious mind can resist this reflection. Instead of thinking, "This person makes me aware of something I need to face," the unprepared psyche reacts with, "This person is strange, intimidating, or too intense." If you carry this kind of energy, you might find that strangers tell you their life stories within minutes, confessing things they've never said out loud. Yet equally, someone you thought was a friend may abruptly distance themselves. The same qualities that attracts the openness, perceptiveness, and emotional clarity can also feel like a threat to those not ready to meet themselves honestly. This is not a flaw in you. It is the nature of any force that wakes people from their sleep. As Jung might say, the psyche is not always grateful for being disturbed. Depth in a shallow culture, living authentically in today's world, means swimming against a cultural tide that rewards speed over reflection, surface over substance, and noise over silence. For someone with a rare aura, this mismatch is exhausting. You crave conversations that are alive with meaning, discussions about purpose, beauty, suffering, and truth. But the social air around you is filled with small talk about status updates, fleeting trends, and manufactured outrage. The hunger for connection is there, but it's starved by a diet of distractions. This gap between what you long for and what's available can create a persistent loneliness. It's not simply the absence of people, it's the absence of resonance. You can be surrounded by voices and feel unheard. The danger here is withdrawal, not the healthy solitude that nourishes you, but a kind of resignation that says, "No one will ever meet me where I am." This is why cultivating a rare aura also requires cultivating discernment, finding the few who can walk with you into deeper waters, even if most remain on the shore. Philosophically, this is akin to Plato's allegory of the cave. You've glimpsed the light outside, and it's painful to watch others content with shadows. Yet the wise person learns to return, not to preach, but to quietly carry the warmth of what they've seen into the world, offering it to those who are ready. The unstoppable evolution, a rare aura, does not stay static. You are not the kind of person who finds themselves once and then rests there. Instead, life keeps calling you into new forms. Every few years, you may feel the pull to shed an old skin, leaving behind beliefs, roles, and even entire social circles that once felt central to your identity. To the outside world, this can look like instability, but from within, you know, it is growth. The caterpillar does not apologize for becoming a butterfly. The butterfly does not apologize for flying further than the garden it was born in. Jung would see this as the individuation process in motion. Individuation is not a single revelation, but a lifelong unfolding, where the conscious and unconscious gradually integrate. Each shift in you is a deeper alignment with the truth of who you are, However, constant evolution comes with costs. You may outgrow relationships that you still love. You may lose the comfort of belonging to a fixed group because you can no longer play a role that fits neatly into it. You may be misunderstood as restless or unreliable when, in reality, you are loyal just not to stagnation. Misunderstanding and myth-making. The more uncommon your way of living, the more others will invent stories about you to make sense of it. Some will mythologize you into a hero. Others will cast you as a villain. Few will truly see the human being behind the projection. This is another paradox of a rare aura. Your reality is often invisible because the space you occupy in other people's minds is filled with their own narratives. A coworker might assume you're aloof simply because you don't participate in gossip. A friend might think you're judging them because your silence makes them aware of things they'd rather ignore. Jung spoke often of projection as a natural psychological process. We cast our own unclaimed qualities onto others, for better or worse. The danger is when we believe those projections to be the truth about the other person. Living authentically means accepting that some will never see you clearly. You cannot spend your life correcting every misunderstanding. Instead, you learn to anchor yourself in your own knowing, letting go of the need to be universally understood. The existential responsibility with authenticity comes a kind of weight. Freedom, Sartre said, is a burden as well as a gift. When you choose to live in alignment with your own truth rather than defaulting to the scripts handed down by society, you also choose the responsibility that comes with shaping your own life. This means there is no one to blame if things go wrong. There is no comfort in saying, "I was just following orders." You are the author, which means you must also own the consequences of the story you write. For many, this is too much. It is easier to stay within the boundaries of what's expected, to let culture dictate the rhythm of life. But for the one with a rare aura, the cost of betraying oneself is far greater than the cost of external disapproval. Jung described this as the moral imperative of individuation. You must become who you truly are, or else you will live in quiet self-betrayal. And self-betrayal over time corrodes the soul more deeply than any criticism from the outside world. Solitude and connection. One of the deepest paradoxes you will face is this. You long for profound connection, yet you need solitude to survive. Too much time in the company of others can dilute your clarity. Too much time alone can starve your need for shared humanity. The art of living authentically is finding the balance or rhythm of engagement and withdrawal that keeps both your inner and outer worlds alive. This may mean refusing invitations that promise only noise and exhaustion, even if it risks disappointing others. It may mean deliberately seeking out the rare friend with whom you can speak without pretense, even if they live far away. In a culture that equates busyness with value, choosing solitude can be mistaken for arrogance or antisocial behavior. But for someone with a rare aura, solitude is not a rejection of the world. It is the soil in which your deepest insights grow. Sustaining the flame, living authentically in this way, is not a one-time decision, but a daily practice. It requires both strength and gentleness. Strength to resist the pull toward conformity, gentleness to forgive yourself when you falter. Practical steps help. Journaling to keep track of your inner evolution. Creating rituals that anchor you. It's a morning walk, a cup of tea in silence, or an evening of reading philosophy, engaging with art, nature, and ideas that feed your depth rather than drain it. But more than any technique, sustaining the flame of a rare aura depends on remembering why you live this way, because to live otherwise would be to dim the light you carry. Jung's vision of individuation was never about becoming better than others. It was about becoming whole. When you live authentically, you give silent permission for others to do the same. Not everyone will take that invitation, but some will, and in that shared courage, the loneliness of difference begins to dissolve. If you've walked this far into your own depths, you know the truth. Authenticity is not the easiest road. It will cost you comfort, certainty, and perhaps the approval of many, but it will give you something far greater yourself. And in the quiet moments, when you feel the alignment of your inner and outer worlds, you will know that this is worth everything. The depth and challenge of living authentically. There comes a point in the life of someone with a rare aura when the novelty of being different gives way to the weight of it. Early on, it may have felt like an unnameable energy, a strange magnetism you neither summoned nor fully understood. You may have wondered why strangers told you secrets they'd never uttered to their closest friends, or why others bristled as if you'd trespassed on sacred territory merely by existing. But as time passes, patterns form, and with them, the deeper realization dawns. To be rare is to live in a constant dialogue with misunderstanding. The more your individuality asserts itself, the more you discover that your life cannot be lived by borrowed scripts, and that means your existence is not one of automatic belonging, but of deliberate creation. Jung understood this well. In his concept of individuation, he described a process in which a person becomes uniquely themselves, distinct from the collective norms, even if that means enduring discomfort or alienation. To live authentically is not merely to have eccentricities. It is to commit with a kind of fierce loyalty to the truth of your being, no matter how inconvenient that truth is to the world around you. The magnetic and the threatening, the paradox of a rare aura, is that it draws people in with the same force that it unsettles them. Imagine a fire in the cold night. Its light is irresistible, but for some, it also throws too many shadows. When people encounter someone with such presence, they are not simply meeting a personality, they are meeting a mirror, and mirrors do not always flatter. They can reveal strength, but they also expose insecurity. Jung's theory of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress or deny, is vital here. When you carry a rare aura, you inevitably awaken parts of others they have chosen to keep hidden. Sometimes this is liberating for them. They feel seen, inspired, even healed. Other times, it is intolerable. Your depth might expose their superficiality, confrontations, especially when they never asked for them. The result is a push-pull dynamic. Some will want to be near you constantly, as though proximity to your energy might awaken something in themselves. Others will keep their distance or retreat abruptly, sensing, often unconsciously, that you see them too clearly for comfort. This can lead you to question yourself. Am I too much, too intense, too strange? But over time, you learn that this is not a problem to solve. It is a reality to manage. Light does not apologize for being light. Depth in a shallow culture, if the rare aura has a defining appetite, it is for depth. You are not content with small talk that circles endlessly. without touching anything alive. You crave the marrow of a conversation, the unvarnished truth, the questions that matter, the kind of dialogue that changes the people having it. And yet, you live in a culture that rewards distraction, speed, and noise. The modern world is built to favor breadth over depth, more connections, more updates, more scrolling, but rarely the stillness needed for real intimacy or reflection. For someone like you, this creates a quiet tension. On one hand, you long to engage. On the other, you cannot fake interest in the endless trivia of social performance. Philosophically, this hunger aligns with what Kierkegaard called the sickness unto death, not literal death, but a spiritual one brought about by living superficially, divorced from our deeper selves. Must seek out spaces, people, and practices that allow for depth to breathe. This might mean fewer relationships, but it also means richer ones. It might mean a smaller social circle, but one in which each person can hold the weight of real conversation. The unstoppable evolution, one of the most challenging and liberating aspects of carrying a rare aura, is that you cannot remain static. You are wired for growth, and growth is rarely comfortable. Fixed identity. You feel compelled to keep shedding skins, questioning assumptions, and reimagining what your life could be. In Jungian terms, this is the individuation process in perpetual motion. It's the ongoing integration of the conscious and unconscious mind, the constant dialogue between the self you know and the self you have yet to meet. Event, but a lifelong unfolding. But here's the rub. Not everyone around you will understand this. People often expect consistency as a form of safety. They want to know that who you were yesterday is who you will be tomorrow. When you evolve, it can unsettle relationships, especially those built on a version of you that no longer exists. Some will accuse you of changing too much, as if growth were a betrayal. But to remain authentic, you must honor the truth that life is a river, not a photograph about you. When your essence doesn't fit into the standard templates, others will try to make sense of you by projecting their own narratives. Some will paint you as mysterious and alluring. Others will brand you as aloof, arrogant, or strange. Neither portrait is the whole truth, but both will circulate nonetheless. This is an unavoidable consequence of being different. Human beings interpret what they do not understand, often filling in the blanks with their own fears or fantasies. To live with a rare aura is to accept that your image will often be beyond your control. The task, then, is not to manage everyone's perception, but to live so deeply in your truth that the noise of misinterpretation cannot dislodge you. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Your job is not to silence the chatter, but to remain anchored in what you know to be real." The existential responsibility, authenticity, is not free. It demands vigilance, courage, and the willingness to stand alone when necessary. Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of the burden of freedom, the unsettling realization that once we acknowledge we are free, we also acknowledge that our life is entirely our own to shape. There is no one to blame for its emptiness or its meaninglessness. There is only the question, what will you do with your freedom? For someone with a rare aura, this question is not academic. Your sensitivity and self-awareness mean you cannot drift through life on autopilot without feeling the corrosion of inauthenticity. And so, you must keep choosing not just once, but daily, to live in alignment with your values, even when those values set you apart. This is the responsibility of the uncommon, to carry the torch of one's own truth without extinguishing it to blend in. Solitude and connection, here lies another paradox. You crave connection, yet you need solitude, like you need oxygen. Without enough alone time, you feel scattered, drained, and disconnected from yourself. But without genuine human contact, you risk becoming untethered, lost in your own interior world. Balancing these needs is an art. It requires being honest with yourself and others about your limits. It means turning down invitations that would drain you, even at the cost of disappointing someone. And it means seeking relationships that respect your rhythms, where silence is not taken as rejection, and space is not mistaken for indifference. Jung himself valued solitude deeply, retreating for long periods to his home on the shores of Lake Zurich, where he would paint, write, and reflect. He understood that for the psyche to remain healthy, it must periodically withdraw from the noise of the world. Yet he also believed in the vital role of connection, not as endless socializing, but as encounters that nourish the soul. Sustaining the flame, living authentically with a rare aura, is not a sprint. It is a lifelong practice. Without care, the very qualities that make you rare can become sources of burnout. Your sensitivity can turn to overwhelm. Your depth can tip into isolation. Tending this might mean rituals of renewal, daily practices that ground and replenish you, whether through meditation, journaling, nature walks, or creative work. Boundaries as protection, not punishment, saying no to preserve your energy and yes to what truly matters. Learning to receive, allowing others to support you rather than always being the one who holds space. Returning to your inner compass, checking in regularly with your own truth rather than seeking validation from the shifting opinions of others. Above all, it means remembering that your rarity is not a performance. It is the natural expression of a deeply integrated self. Jung's individuation process is never finished. It is a spiral, bringing you back to familiar themes, but from higher levels of understanding each time. Is achieved not by cutting off parts of yourself, but by embracing them all. Closing reflection: to carry a rare aura is to walk a path without a map. There will be moments when you wish you could trade it for the ease of fitting in, and moments when you feel the exquisite privilege of seeing the world in colors others cannot perceive. To keep evolving, and to keep offering your light without apology, not because the world will always welcome it, but because it is yours, and because to dim it would be to betray the very essence of your being.